beneath the roaring pulse of Chicago's Interstate 90, where the Chicago River reflects the city's restless glow, 16-year-old Marcus huddles in a rusted alcove, his breath clouding the icy winter air. The overpass above, streaked with graffiti and despair, shelters his world, a tattered journal of poetry and a rickety cart he calls Hope, pieced together from scrap wood and bicycle wheels. Orphaned after his mother's death and his father's wrongful imprisonment, Marcus survives by scavenging recyclables, his pride a quiet shield against a city that's forgotten him. His journal, filled with verses about dreams of being seen, rests beside him, its pages worn but alive with his unspoken voice. The wind howls, carrying distant sirens, yet Marcus whispers a poem to himself, his eyes tracing the stars through the haze. This is his life, cold, unseen, but unbroken. Join us as Marcus's story unfolds, a tale of courage and kindness that will warm your heart. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to follow this journey, because sometimes the smallest spark can light up the darkest night. The Chicago night wraps Marcus in its icy grip, the wind howling through the graffiti-streaked overpass like a restless spirit. Tucked in his rusted alcove along the Chicago River, the 16-year-old clutches his poetry journal, its worn pages a quiet rebellion against the city's indifference. His cart, Hope, stands nearby, its scrapwood frame and bicycle wheels a testament to his resourcefulness. The distant wail of sirens fades, leaving only the hum of Interstate 90 above and the soft lapping of the river below. Marcus, orphaned by his mother's death and his father's wrongful imprisonment, has learned to navigate this world alone, his pride keeping him from begging, his poems a lifeline to dreams he barely dares to voice. He's just settled into his tattered blanket, whispering a verse about being seen, when a faint sound pierces the silence, a trembling cry, human and desperate, almost drowned by the groan of a passing truck. Marcus freezes, his breath catching. It's not the skitter of rats or the rumble of distant engines he's used to. This is different, raw, like someone fighting to hold on to life. Instinct kicks in, overriding the fatigue that weighs his bones. He crawls from his alcove, his sneakers crunching on gravel, and grabs a flashlight from beneath a crate, smacking it twice until its weak beam flickers to life. The cry comes again, sharper now, laced with pain. Marcus scans the shadows beyond the overpass, his heart thudding against his ribs. The city's glow offers little clarity, just fleeting headlights on the freeway and the distant neon of a liquor store. He moves cautiously down the embankment, past rusted fencing and piles of old tires, the flashlight's beam trembling in his grip. The sound grows louder, a low moan followed by a gasp that cuts through the house night like a blade. It leads him to a deserted service road, forgotten by Chicago's bustle, lined with chain-link fences and broken glass. There, half hidden in a shallow ditch, is a sleek Tesla, its headlights dim, its engine silent. The car's polished surface gleams under the moonlight, a stark contrast to the grit around it. A vehicle Marcus has only seen in ads or speeding past too fast to notice. The driver's window is fogged, but through it, he makes out a silhouette. A woman, slumped over the steering wheel, one arm clutching the door, the other wrapped tightly around her swollen belly. Her mouth is open, teeth clenched, eyes wide with agony. Marcus steps closer, his flashlight casting jagged shadows. "Ma'am?" he calls, his voice steady but cautious. No response. He raps on the glass, and she flinches, her head turning slowly toward him. Her face, pale and flushed with heat, is framed by dark hair matted with sweat. She's in her early 30s, her elegant coat and diamond ring hinting at a life far from Marcus's world. But her pain is universal. Her lips part as if to speak, but only a whimper escapes. Marcus circles the car, trying the door. Locked. He knocks again, harder. "Are you okay?" he asks, louder now. She gasps, her body seizing with a contraction, her eyes rolling back. Panic surges in Marcus's chest, his pulse hammering. He glances up and down the empty road. No cars, no people, no help. The frost on the glass tells him the heater's dead, and the steam rising off her skin screams that she's overheating. He knows what he has to do, but the risk stops him cold. Breaking into a car could mean trouble, cops, accusations, a system that's never been kind to boys like him. But her next cry, sharp and animal, decides it for him. Marcus steps back to his cart, grabbing a brick he keeps for protection. He wraps it in his scarf to muffle the blow and hesitates, his breath puffing white in the air. Then, with a quick swing, he strikes the side window near the edge. Once, twice, until it spiderwebs and shatters with a dull pop. Glass rains onto the seat, and the woman barely reacts, her world narrowed to the pain tearing through her. Marcus reaches through, unlocks the door, and pulls it open. She sags toward him, whispering something incoherent, her voice faint as a fading signal. Up close, her beauty is surreal despite the chaos. Lipstick faded, one earring missing, a silver phone blinking on the passenger seat, its battery dead. Marcus doesn't ask questions. He shrugs off his scarf, draping it over her shoulders, and wedges his arm under hers, gently lifting her from the car. She screams, short and hoarse, but doesn't resist. Her legs wobble, every step a struggle. Marcus guides her to hope, the cart's frame creaking as he eases her in. He tucks his poetry journal beside her, a silent promise to return for it, and grips the handles. The hospital is 10 blocks away, and no one else is coming. Marcus takes a deep breath, his eyes fixed on the city's glow, and begins to run. Stay with us for the next part of Marcus's incredible journey, and don't forget to like and subscribe to see how his courage lights up the night. The Chicago night claws at Marcus as he grips the handles of his cart. Hope, its mismatched wheels screeching against the cracked pavement. Inside, Elizabeth, the pregnant woman he's just freed from a stranded Tesla, lies trembling, cocooned in his tattered blanket. Her pained gasps slice through the city's drone, each one a ticking clock that drives Marcus forward. At 16, he's no stranger to hardship, orphaned by his mother's death and his father's wrongful imprisonment. He's survived on pride and poetry, but nothing has prepared him for this. The weight of Elizabeth's life and the unborn child she carries presses against his chest like a stone, yet he doesn't falter. He sprints toward Mercy Hospital, 10 blocks away, his sneakers pounding the ground in a frantic rhythm. The cart rattles over potholes, its scrap wood frame groaning under Elizabeth's weight, but Marcus pushes harder, his breath clouding in the freezing air. Streetlights flicker overhead, casting shadows that twist across graffiti-scarred walls, while Chicago's skyline glimmers in the distance, a taunting beacon of hope. Elizabeth's murmurs break through her agony, faint and disjointed. Something about her baby, about fear, about not being ready. Marcus stays silent, his jaw tight. Memories of his own losses, his mother's voice, his father's handcuffs, flash through his mind, fueling his resolve. He's running for her, but also for the boy he was, the one no one came for. The streets fight back. A jagged curb nearly topples the cart, and Marcus steadies it with a grunt, his knuckles whitening on the handles. His poetry journal, tucked in the cart's corner, jostles with every bump, its pages a quiet reminder of the dreams he's carried through Chicago's shadows. The city ignores him, a lone figure in the dark, a kid with a cart, invisible to the world's rush. Tonight, that invisibility is his power. He veers into an alley to cut time, weaving past puddles and heaps of discarded furniture, the cart's wheels shrieking in protest. A stray dog's bark echoes, and the neon glow of a 24-hour corner store beckons, but Marcus doesn't stop. His eyes are locked on the faint blue-white glow of Mercy Hospital, still blocks away. Elizabeth's voice weakens, her words slurring into a plea. "He's coming. It hurts so much. Please." Marcus clenches his teeth, his legs screaming, and mutters, "Just hold on," unsure if he's reassuring her or himself. Danger looms. A man emerges from a shadowed doorway, his flashlight beam blinding Marcus as he bellows, "Kid, what's with the cart? You stealing her?" The bystander, wrapped in a parka, assumes the worst, his voice thick with suspicion. Marcus's heart skips. He knows this script, the way the world paints boys like him as trouble. "She's in labor!" he shouts, swerving to dodge the man's grab. The cart wobbles, and Elizabeth lets out a faint cry, her hand clutching the blanket. The man hesitates, his flashlight dipping, but Marcus doesn't wait for permission. He surges past, the man's accusations fading into the night. The moment stings, a bitter reminder of the city's quick judgment, but there's no time for anger. Blood seeps through the blanket now, dark and spreading, pooling beneath Elizabeth's legs. Panic surges in Marcus's gut, a cold wave that threatens to swallow him, but he forces it down. He runs faster, the cart jolting over a curb, his knees grazing asphalt as he catches it before it tips. The hospital's glow draws closer. 8 blocks, then 6, then 4. Marcus's chest burns, his fingers numb from gripping the cold metal handles, but he doesn't slow. Elizabeth's screams have faded, replaced by shallow, ragged breaths that scare him more than her cries. He steals a glance. Her face is ghostly pale, her eyes half shut, her elegant coat now stained and crumpled. "Almost there," he rasps, willing her to hear. The final stretch feels like a lifetime, the hospital's red cross glowing like salvation. He cuts through a parking lot, past a loading dock, and up a ramp to the emergency entrance. The glass doors stand unmoving, and Marcus pounds on them with both fists, the sound reverberating like a plea. "Help! She's dying!" He yells, his voice breaking. A nurse appears, her eyes widening as she sees Elizabeth. The doors slide open, and a team in scrubs spills out, their voices sharp with urgency. They lift Elizabeth onto a stretcher, shouting about a breech birth and heavy bleeding. Marcus stumbles back, his legs shaking as the blanket falls away, revealing more blood. His cart stands abandoned, its wheels still spinning, stained with the night's toll. He's done what no one else would, but the fight isn't over, not for Elizabeth and not for him. Stay tuned for the next chapter of Marcus's incredible story, and don't forget to like and subscribe to see how his courage changes everything. The glass doors of Mercy Hospital's emergency room hiss shut behind Marcus, sealing out the Chicago night's biting cold. His chest heaves, his legs tremble, and his hands, still tingling from gripping the handles of his cart, hang limp at his sides. Inside the cart, now abandoned in a corner of the ER's starkly lit entrance, the blanket that held Elizabeth is crumpled, streaked with blood that glistens under the fluorescent lights. Marcus, only 16, leans against the tiled wall, his sweat-soaked hoodie clinging to his skin. The chaos of moments ago, sprinting 10 blocks, dodging a suspicious bystander, pounding on these very doors, lingers like a pulse in his ears. Elizabeth, the pregnant woman he rescued from a stranded Tesla, is gone, whisked away by a flurry of nurses shouting about a breech birth and heavy bleeding. Marcus doesn't know if she'll make it or if the baby will, and the uncertainty gnaws at him. His poetry journal, left in the cart during the frantic run, lies forgotten among the folds of the blanket, its pages holding the dreams of a boy the world rarely sees. The ER buzzes around him, beeping monitors, hurried footsteps, voices barking orders. But Marcus feels invisible again, just as he did under the graffiti-streaked overpass by the Chicago River. Nurses in scrubs rush past, their eyes skimming over the disheveled teen slumped against the wall. Marcus's breath slows, but his mind races. He's been here before, in hospitals, waiting for news that never came. First for his mother, lost to illness, then for his father, taken by a system that didn't care to listen. The memory stings, but he pushes it down, focusing on the present. He did what he could, got Elizabeth here, but now what? Will they blame him for the broken car window? Will they call the cops? His pride, the same pride that's kept him from begging on Chicago's streets, urges him to slip away, back to the shadows where he's safe. But his legs won't move, rooted by something he can't name, a tether to the woman whose life he carried through the night. The cart's wheels click faintly, still spinning, a reminder of the journey that brought him here. Blood stains its scrap wood frame, and Marcus wonders if it's enough to mark him as a hero or a suspect. A nurse, her teal scrubs wrinkled from a long shift, approaches, her face softening as she takes in Marcus's weary frame. "You okay, honey?" she asks, her voice a gentle contrast to the ER's chaos. Marcus nods, though his body says otherwise. His hands shake, his knees ache from scraping asphalt. She hands him a bottle of water and a pack of crackers, and he fumbles with the wrapper, his fingers stiff from the cold. "You brought her in, didn't you?" she presses, kneeling beside him. Marcus nods again, his voice barely above a whisper. "She was in a car. Couldn't move." He doesn't mention the brick, the blood, or the man who thought he was a thief. The nurse's eyes hold his, and for a moment he feels seen, not as a problem, but as a person. "You did good," she says, and Marcus looks away, unsure how to carry her words. The moment shatters as a security guard approaches, his broad frame and clipped tone cutting through the air. "Kid, you with her?" he asks, eyeing Marcus's grimy hoodie and the blood-streaked cart. Marcus shakes his head. "Name?" the guard presses. "Marcus," he replies softly, bracing for more questions. "You related?" The guard continues, his skepticism clear. "No, just found her," Marcus says, keeping it short. The guard mutters something into his walkie-talkie and walks off, leaving Marcus with the nurse. She tries again, gentler. "Where's your family, Marcus?" He hesitates, the crackers turning to dust in his mouth. "Don't have any," he mumbles, the truth heavy but familiar. The nurse's face tightens, but before she can respond, a shout from the ER corridor snaps her attention. "She's stabilizing! Get her to OB!" a doctor calls, and Marcus's chest loosens, just a fraction. Elizabeth is alive, for now. The nurse touches his shoulder. "You saved her, you know." Marcus doesn't reply, his eyes fixed on the hallway where Elizabeth disappeared. The weight of her words feels foreign, like a coat that doesn't fit. He stands, his legs unsteady, and moves toward the cart. His journal catches his eye, half buried in the blanket, but he doesn't retrieve it. Not yet. The doors beckon, promising the familiar silence of the city. He steps toward them, the hiss of their opening letting in a gust of cold air that lifts the hem of his hoodie. He doesn't look back, doesn't wait for thanks or questions. The journal stays behind, a piece of him left in the light, as he slips back into the night's embrace. Stay with us for the next part of Marcus's journey, and don't forget to like and subscribe to see how one act of courage ripples through a city. Morning light filters through the blinds of a private room at Mercy Hospital, casting soft stripes across Elizabeth's face as she opens her eyes. The antiseptic air and the faint hum of machines ground her, but her mind is a jumble of fragmented memories, freezing air, searing pain, a stalled Tesla, and a boy's face, young and determined, cutting through the chaos. Beside her, in a bassinet, her newborn son Noah sleeps, his tiny chest rising and falling beneath a knitted blue blanket. Elizabeth's hand trembles as she touches his cheek, tears welling at the miracle of his existence. She's alive, he's alive, but the how and why anchor her thoughts to the boy who brought them here. Marcus, only 16, risked everything to save her, a stranger, pushing his rickety cart, Hope, through Chicago's unforgiving streets. The weight of his selflessness settles over her, heavy and humbling. She's Rachel Harper, wife of tech billionaire Daniel Harper, face of the Harper Foundation's billboards, a woman who's preached about helping the forgotten. Yet, when her life hung in the balance, it wasn't wealth or influence that saved her. It was a kid from the shadows, with nothing but nerve and a cart cobbled from scrap. A nurse enters, her smile warm but tired, and confirms the doctor's report. Elizabeth and Noah are stable, but it was close, too close. 10 minutes later, and they might not have made it. Elizabeth listens, her hand resting on her now empty stomach, but her mind is elsewhere. "The boy who brought me," she says, her voice hoarse. "Where is he? Did anyone get his name?" The nurse hesitates, her expression clouding. "He didn't stay. Left before we could get more than his first name, Marcus." The name strikes Elizabeth like a bell, not because she knows him, but because it feels like she should. She presses for details, but the nurse has little to offer, just a fleeting image of a thin, hoodie-clad teen slipping out the ER doors, leaving his blood-stained cart behind. Then the nurse's face brightens. He left something, though. A journal. Found it in the blanket. She hands Elizabeth a worn notebook, its pages filled with poetry in Marcus's jagged handwriting. Elizabeth opens it, and the words, raw, vivid, aching with dreams of being seen, stop her cold. They're the voice of a boy the world has overlooked, yet who carried her to safety. Elizabeth reads, her tears smudging the ink, each verse revealing Marcus's depth, his pain, his quiet defiance. She thinks of her foundation's mission, of the speeches she's given about second chances, and feels a pang of irony. Marcus didn't just save her life. He exposed the gap between her words and the reality of boys like him, living beneath Chicago's overpasses. Meanwhile, Marcus is back in his rusted alcove by the Chicago River, colder without his blanket, unaware of the journal's discovery. The city hums around him, indifferent, as he sorts cans, his pride keeping him moving despite the ache in his legs. He doesn't know Elizabeth is vowing to find him, not for a headline or a handout, but to look him in the eyes and say thank you, a real thank you, the kind that sees him as more than a story. Daniel Harper arrives, a force of nature in a tailored suit, his face pale as he rushes to Elizabeth's side. He kisses her forehead, gazes at Noah with awe, but when she tells him about Marcus, the broken window, the cart, the 10-block sprint, his expression shifts to determination. "Who is this kid?" he asks, already pulling out his phone. "Security said he left no last name." Elizabeth shakes her head, clutching the journal. "His name's Marcus, that's all we have." Daniel moves like a man on a mission, calling his publicist, his foundation manager, his driver. Within an hour, a plan forms. Security footage, street cameras, outreach to shelters. Elizabeth doesn't object. She wants Marcus found too, but not for Daniel's press release or a staged photo op. She wants to know why a boy with so little gave so much, and how she can honor that without turning it into charity. The journal stays in her hands, its words a bridge to Marcus's world. She reads a poem about a bridge not being a home, and her resolve hardens. She'll find him, not to fix him, but to see him, fully, truthfully, the way he saw her in her darkest moment. The nurse returns, glancing at Noah. "He's a fighter, like his mom," she says. Elizabeth nods, but her thoughts are with Marcus, out there in the cold, his cart, his only companion. She whispers, "We owe him everything, not to Daniel or the nurse, but to herself, a promise that won't fade with the headlines." Stay with us for the next part of this heartfelt story, and don't forget to like and subscribe to see how Elizabeth's gratitude transforms lives. The Chicago dusk paints the sky in hues of gray and gold, the city's skyline glowing against the fading light as Elizabeth Harper steps out of an SUV onto the gravel-strewn edge of the service road beneath the Interstate 90 overpass. She's alone, save for her newborn son, Noah, cradled in her arms, wrapped in a soft cotton blanket. Her jeans and oversized coat replace the elegance of her past life. Her face bare of makeup, her expression resolute. 3 days have passed since Marcus, the 16-year-old who saved her life, vanished from Mercy Hospital, leaving behind only his name and a poetry journal that's haunted her ever since. Its raw verses, filled with dreams of being seen, revealed a boy the world ignored. A boy who pushed her 10 blocks in his rickety cart, hope, to save her and Noah. Elizabeth, wife of tech billionaire Daniel Harper, has rejected her husband's media-driven search with its press releases and security teams. Instead, she's followed a quieter lead, a local vendor who recognized Marcus's cart, its wheels patched with duct tape from a grainy ER security photo. Now standing where the Chicago River reflects the city's restless pulse, she's determined to find him, not to offer charity, but to offer gratitude, the kind that sees him as he is. The overpass looms above, its graffiti-streaked columns casting long shadows. The wind howls, carrying the faint clatter of cans. Elizabeth's heart pounds as she spots him. Marcus, his back turned, sorting recyclables into a plastic sack behind a rusted trash bin. His hoodie is dirt-streaked, his movements careful, deliberate, as if the world might notice him and judge. The cart, Hope, stands nearby, its scrap-wood frame and bicycle wheels a stark reminder of the night he carried her to safety. Elizabeth steps forward, Noah stirring softly against her chest, and the SUV's engine cuts off, leaving only the hum of the city. Marcus freezes, his head lifting like a deer sensing danger. He turns slowly, his dark eyes meeting hers, wary and guarded. For a moment, neither speaks, the air thick with the weight of what's passed between them. Elizabeth breaks the silence, her voice soft but steady. "You remember me?" she asks, and Marcus nods once, his lips parting but no words coming. She tilts her chin toward Noah. "You saved us, me and him. His name's Noah, after my father, and yours." The revelation catches Marcus off guard, his eyes flickering to the baby, then back to her. Elizabeth steps closer, careful not to spook him. "I read your journal," she says, and Marcus stiffens, a flash of vulnerability crossing his face. "Those poems, they're powerful. I saw you on a billboard once, for your foundation. Never thought I'd meet you like this." The admission, a twist that adds irony to their bond, softens the tension. Elizabeth smiles, not the polished smile of her public life, but one that cracks open something real. "You okay?" Marcus asks, his voice rough, unused. "We are," she replies, "because of you." He shifts, glancing at the cart, his only constant in a world that's let him down. "I didn't do it for anything," he says, and she nods, understanding. "I know. That's why it matters." The SUV's driver steps out, placing 2 duffel bags and an envelope on the ground. But Elizabeth keeps her eyes on Marcus. "I want to help," she says, gesturing to the cold cement, the patched cart, the life he's endured. "Not because you saved me, but because you matter." Marcus stares, searching her face for traps, for the kind of kindness that comes with strings. He survived Chicago's streets on pride, scavenging to avoid begging, his poetry a shield against despair. "I don't need saving," he says finally, his voice firm. Elizabeth nods, the wind tugging at her coat. "I'm not offering to save you. I'm offering a door, a place to sleep, food, school, if you want it. You decide." Silence stretches, filled with the city's hum and the weight of their shared truth. Marcus looks at Noah, his tiny fist curled around the blanket, and something shifts in his shoulders, a loosening of the guard he's held so long. "He's strong," he says quietly. "So are you," Elizabeth replies. He steps forward, not fully into her world, but close enough to take the envelope. Inside is an address, a promise, no strings attached. He nods once, the gesture small but seismic. Elizabeth turns back to the SUV, Noah tucked close, and Marcus stands beneath the overpass, the envelope in his hand, the first step toward a future he never dared imagine. Stay with us for the final chapter of this moving story, and don't forget to like and subscribe to see how Marcus's journey unfolds. The late afternoon sun bathes a Chicago community center in golden light, its modest brick facade a stark contrast to the city's towering skyline. Inside, a crowd gathers, their murmurs filling the air as cameras flash and phones rise, capturing a moment that feels both ordinary and sacred. At the center of it all stands Marcus, now 17, in a navy blazer that hangs slightly too big on his frame, a borrowed suit for an unfamiliar stage. A year ago, he was a shadow beneath the Interstate 90 overpass, surviving on scavenged cans and the poetry in his journal, his cart, Hope, his only companion. Now, he's at a podium, the gold seal of the mayor's office gleaming behind him, honored for the night he saved Elizabeth Harper and her newborn son Noah by pushing them 10 blocks to Mercy Hospital. That act of courage, born of instinct and kindness, has rippled through Chicago, a story the city can't stop telling. Marcus's poetry, discovered in his journal and published with his permission by Elizabeth's Foundation, has found a local audience, its raw verses of dreams and resilience striking a chord. Yet as he grips the podium, Marcus feels the weight of eyes on him, a boy still learning to live above ground, still wondering if this life is truly his. The crowd quiets, and Marcus glances at the note cards someone prepared, their stiff words feeling foreign in his hands. He looks up, catching Elizabeth in the front row, her quiet smile steady. Noah balanced on her hip, his curious eyes mirroring Marcus's own. Something shifts in him, and he sets the cards aside, choosing truth over script. "I don't think I'm a hero," he begins, his voice low but clear, cutting through the room's hush. "I was scared, cold, tired, and I saw someone who needed help. That's it. I didn't know her name, didn't know her husband was famous, didn't even know if the hospital would let us in. But I knew what pain looked like, and I knew what it felt like when no one showed up. So I did." The words land like stones in still water, rippling outward. He shifts his weight, his sneakers scuffing the stage, and continues. "I used to live under a bridge, with a cart, a blanket, and no reason to think anyone would notice me unless I was in their way. But that night, something right happened, and now I'm here. In this jacket, this school, this life. Sometimes I still wonder if it's mine." The room is silent, save for a few soft sniffles. Elizabeth presses a hand to her heart, Noah cooing softly in her arms. Marcus takes a breath, his eyes scanning the crowd, city officials, reporters, strangers who see him as a symbol, but also kids like he was, quiet and watching from the back. "They say what I did was brave," he says, "but the truth? It wasn't bravery. It was kindness, a choice you make when no one's watching, when no one's paying you, when no one's putting your name in lights. I'm not special. I'm not different. I just got a chance. A door opened, and I stepped through. But there are kids out there, smart, strong, tired, who haven't found that door. Kids who'd carry the world if someone just looked them in the eye and said they matter." The applause rises slowly, full and reverent, not a cheer but a recognition, a shared breath of something true. Marcus steps back, nodding once, letting the moment settle. The crowd begins to mingle, shaking hands, offering congratulations. But Marcus slips into the hallway, seeking quiet. He finds a window overlooking Chicago's busy streets, the same city that once forgot him, now bending slightly in his direction. The overpass by the Chicago River, his old home, is out there somewhere, empty now, a place he left not out of hate, but because it taught him how to move forward. He catches Elizabeth's reflection in the glass, standing outside with Noah, her coat pulled close, shielding her eyes as she looks up. She doesn't wave, just smiles, a quiet pride in her gaze, not for what Marcus did, but for who he's becoming. He enrolled in school, his poetry a bridge to a future he's only beginning to claim. As the sun dips lower, Marcus stands a moment longer, the warmth of the glass soaking into his palms. He doesn't know what's next, but he knows this. You don't need a house to have a heart or a title to do right. You just need to care enough to show up, especially when no one sees you. Join us for more stories that inspire. And don't forget to like and subscribe to share in the journey of kindness that changes everything.